We are live with the lowdown and D'Lo Brown. D'Lo, we are just a little bit late, but we're going to get the party started. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. And you know what? Good things come to those who wait. I apologize for being late. Sometimes real life gets in the way, but now we can dive into the wrestling life.
Well, we can't start with wrestling. You know what we're going to start with today.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So, as we were waiting, it looks like you were tweeting.
Hmm.
You let everyone know that you were not going to bury the Dallas Cowboys and our good
No,
friend Mark Henry after
I'm not going
Caleb
to bury the.
Williams.
I'm not going to bury the Dallas Cowboys or Mark Henry. I lied. Yes, I am. Look, look. I never thought in my life the Dallas Cowboys would be a get right game. But that's exactly what it turned out to be. Caleb Williams, almost 300 yards passing, count them, four touchdown passes. Guess what? Eberflus is continuing to develop Caleb Williams by giving him a zone defense to play against. And man, I had to pinch myself a couple times because I had no clue who was wearing those jerseys and playing in Soldier Field, but I'm damn sure glad they were the Chicago Bears and the Dallas Cowgirls can go back home to Dallas. And hey, go on, Jera. Trade Micah Parsons again.
Okay. Now this is from the guy who a couple weeks ago
Yeah,
said, "I just don't think Caleb's the guy."
I still don't. But it was a get right game until he shows me a little more. That is a great start. That was an incredible start. Look, you can only play the team you're in front of. I appreciate the fact that the O line gave him enough time uh, for the first time since he was a sophomore in college, not getting sacked in a game. Um, that's pretty cool. Now, let's see if we can do it this week against the Raiders, and then go on next week. We got the bye week, or we got Baltimore then the bye week. So it, it, it's yeah, we'll see. Let me get back once again. You don't know what you are until after Game 5. We're getting there.
You went 3-2 in your predictions this week,
I won 3-2 in my predictions. Yeah, not the most stellar of a week.
but I got to be honest with you,
Did I do better than Mark Henry?
you did better than Mark Henry.
Then that's all that matters.
That's all that
That's all
matters.
that matters.
And for those of you who are just joining us from seeing D'Lo not bury Mark Henry and the bum ass Dallas Cowboys, because that's what they are. They're a bum ass Dallas Cowboys. Smash the like button as
Smash it.
balls deep put up in there. Get into this chat. We know everyone's watching on X. Head over to podcastewrestling.com, hit subscribe, turn on your notifications. You never know when we're going to go live and when we're able to go live, but soon you will not be able to watch us on X. But super chats to the front of the line. We have a lot to discuss. You had a very busy weekend in the Northeast, cracking cards, signing autographs. What was your weekend like, D'Lo?
Man, it was a crazy weekend. Spending time over in Boston. Shout out to all my friends over there. I see in the chat room. I see the Connor family are hanging out with me. Uh, once again, right there, those are my boys. I did a great break there, and got to spend time in one of Tom Brady's stores, and got to do a live break and just have fun. And then I spent time doing autograph sessions, doing meet and greets. I love interacting with the fans. I love being out there. I love being part of the action and with the people. So if you see me out somewhere, know that I'm not just gonna, put my head down and sign the autograph. I'll probably talk to you for 5 minutes and hold the rest of the lineup. So um, come on in and have some fun.
D'Lo is going to be making an appearance not this, I'm sorry, 2 weeks from now, October 3rd for 3PWA in Corona, California. You do
Yes,
not want
sir.
to miss D'Lo. The information will be up on his social media tomorrow. And if you want D'Lo in your hometown, all you have to do is head over to his social media at D'Lo Brown 75 on X and at D'Lo Brown LFC on Instagram and hit him up. He's available for bookings and appearances. And no, Mark Henry won't like this, Jordan. You are correct. But
No, Mark Henry won't like it. But Look, I can run faster, so I'm not going to get inducted into the Hall of Fame.
No, oh, you're nope. I'm not doing it. I'm not taking the bait. I know exactly what you're setting up for with the Hall of Pain. Before we get into your return to the WWE in 2008, which is our topic today, WrestlePalooza was going on while you were at that signing. You had a chance to
Yeah,
watch the show. What did you think? Because our chat has some opinions, and I'll get to the poll in a second. But what did you think of WrestlePalooza?
here's the thing, and I will start out by saying the young ladies and young men worked their tails off. Everyone that went out there did an admirable job. My only critique is, to me, this WrestlePalooza was, to me, a very impactful and important pay per view. Is the kickoff of the ESPN era, kickoff of the mainstream era, and I just wish it would have um, delivered more in terms of surprises, anything like that. Overall, I didn't think it was a great show. I think it was, once again, a hard work show and a couple good matches. I think it could have been more. That's just me. That should have been treated like a WrestleMania. That should have been treated like, top shelf. Let's put out the best, 5 or 6 matches.
Speaking of the best, it seems our chat does agree with you right now. The poll is up and it is tied 38% thumbs up, 38% thumbs in the middle, and 23% thumbs down. So you did get one of your predictions incorrect.
Which one did I miss?
You took
It was Brock and John Cena. And I got to tell you, and there were some people there with me that night who can verify, they're in the chat with me. When I saw that Brock and John Cena opened the show, I wish I didn't know the lineup. When I saw they were the first match out, the first thing I said was Brock's winning, just because of the placement of on the show. But that wasn't my official pick, so I don't get credit for it. But yes, when I saw that they was the first match out there, no doubt in my mind what the finish was going to be.
There's been some interesting chatter on the internet, and I know you've been kind of disconnected for most of the day today, so I'm not even sure that you're aware of this. But there was kind of like this rumor that the plan was John Cena was to defeat Brock Lesnar, and John volunteered to put Brock over.
And I could see John doing that, and to me, it sounds like and feels like Brock will be John's last opponent in a couple months. That's how it feels to me.
Dave Meltzer has said John Cena's last opponent won't be Brock Lesnar. But this interesting aspect of this today is that John Cena went on his Twitter. By the way, John Cena follows at Podcast Heat Wrestling. You should too, at Watch Pod Heat, by the way, and tweeted that he wanted Cena versus Styles. And within a couple hours, John Cena tweeted this: I want to thank at Triple H for being flexible here and rewarding the true driving force behind hashtag Cena vs. Styles, the fans. 2 posts, over 10 million views, and so many of you let yourself be heard. At Crown Jewel in Perth, John Cena will take on AJ Styles. When you hear that and you hear John Cena go, I want to thank Triple H, what's that mean to you?
That's just doing good business and thanking him for being flexible and changing whatever his plans may have been to give people what they want. So that's John being a professional and saying what all the people wanted to say. So that's John being very professional.
Do you think John did that to make sure he's working AJ, or do you think Hunter had a different plan and this was John's way of getting out of it?
That's I can convince myself either way. I would like to say that John wanted to work AJ, and that was his way of putting it out in the universe. I still think John's going to work Brock again because I don't see Brock getting the last. I don't see Brock destroying John and never touching him again. I just, in no shape or form, can I see that. So eventually Cena will be in there with Brock again, but it'll be good to see Cena in there with AJ Styles. And that'll be good for AJ too.
You worked AJ.
Mm-hmm.
One of your favorite opponents.
Absolutely.
What do you know about AJ on the big stage?
When the lights are brightest, he shines brighter than the lights. AJ can get out there and flat out go with the best of them. He was a huge star even in a small company, and then he grew. The companies grew to fit him. I should say that, and that's leaving TNA and going to New Japan and being a bright star there, and then having to come land his star on the biggest runway of in the wrestling universe of WWE, and you could tell from being an undersized guy, not a typical Vince guy. They put the world title on him within months of his arrival. That should tell you all you need to know about what AJ Styles is and means to wrestling. He was an outsider, and they put the world title on him.
Did you ever think AJ would ever get that opportunity?
Realistically, knowing the types of guys that Vince McMahon liked to push, AJ was undersized. But here's the thing about AJ is he wrestles bigger than what he is. He's like that. He's the Eddie Guerrero, where you don't ever see him as 6 inches smaller than his opponent because he works so big. You feel he's always equal to his opponent, and that's the beauty of AJ Styles.
Is AJ your favorite opponent?
X-Pac is, but AJ's right there in the top 2 or 3. X-Pac definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, is my favorite opponent.
So it's X-Pac, AJ, who's
AJ Styles, Great Muta.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's a
great. Yeah. And that's just he's in my top 3 because that's the 9-year-old me going, I'm wrestling the great freaking Muta. So, I couldn't ask him to hit me with that pile drive elbow fast enough or clip me with the Shining Wizard because that was the kid in me going, that's the beauty of this business is you get to live out your childhood fantasies and people don't even get to know it until years later when you tell them.
Speaking of childhood fantasies, this is going to transition us into our topic, your return to the WWE in 2008, but it really starts in 2007. You're working in Noah, you're teaming with Bull Buchanan.
Mm-hmm.
How does the connection get made in 2007 to you working some dark matches for the WWE at MSG and Mohegan Sun?
Funny thing was, that weekend I was doing some independent shows in the Northeast, and I had reached out to Ron and to see if he was on the show. And I was like, hey, let's get together after the show because I wasn't part of the company. I wasn't just going to show up at, of all places, Madison Square Garden and stand back there. And he goes,
right,
why don't you come to the show with me? And I go, you sure? He goes, yeah, come on. You just come hang out. So went to Madison Square Garden, and I think it was Bruce Pritchard who saw me at first. And they were like, what are you doing here? I'm like, I'm just hanging out with Ron. And then as you go through and you start talking, people go, you got your gear with you? And they go, it's at the hotel. I can get it in no time. And went back, got it, and had a dark match. And that's how the conversation started about potentially coming back. It was, okay, let's do this again tomorrow night. We went to Mohegan Sun in Connecticut, had a match there. And then that next couple of days, it was the conversation started, and I had to finish up with Noah before I could make my way back to WWE.
Were you in conversation with John Laurinaitis? Was it Bruce Pritchard? Was it Vince McMahon? Who was the?
It was Johnny Ace. He and I talked several times, and he's the one that finally put a pen to paper and got me back there. So yeah, I was always in touch with Johnny Ace, and then it took several months for me to finish up with Noah, and then I made my way back to. I think I debuted in a dark match, like in Oklahoma City or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was Oklahoma City.
So the conversation begins in middle of 2007. You finish up with Noah and you run there, and then you join the company in 2008. Mm-hmm. Was the only thing that was holding you up from getting back into the company was your commitments to Noah?
Yeah, pretty much. That was the only thing keeping me out of the loop for a while. And I like to honor my obligations.
Dave Meltzer wrote in the Observer, D'Lo Brown, who worked for the company from 1997 to 2003, although he was largely kicked to the curb by 2001 as far as being on the regular roster, was signed this past week. Most likely, this is part of Vince's, and that's being Vince McMahon's, wanting African Americans on television. Part of it is a decrease of the demo in the ratings, in part with Booker T and Bobby Lashley leaving, and any racism controversy stemming from having Michael Hayes on the creative team makes them a sitting duck for future controversy if they don't push African Americans. Were you aware of any of the issues that were going on in the company that were reported here in the Observer?
None whatsoever. Obviously, when I wasn't in the company, I really wasn't paying attention to the product. And in being, going back and forth to Japan, I was disconnected. You would hear things, but it wasn't my company, so I really didn't care. And I didn't hear any of that or pay attention to any of that stuff. All I knew is when I went back to go see them, they invited me to come back, and that was about it.
Do you think your race had anything to do with it at all?
I hope not.
Okay.
I hope in even as in 2007 or 8, my race had nothing to do with it, and it was all about my skill and who I was as a person. Um, can I put it past them to say race was a part of it? Because I'm not in that decision making room, and I don't know. But a large part of me hopes race had nothing to do with it.
There was an interesting clip. You recently did a podcast that was on your Instagram story. And if you don't follow D'Lo, you should. D'Lo Brown LFC on Instagram, where they talked about you caning Tommy Dreamer. Now, this is back before your return to the company. You're with Teddy Long for that short period of time, but it's you caning Tommy Dreamer. Why did it feel like there was a lot of racial overtones in some of the creative? Do you think that was just something that Vince enjoyed?
I don't know, and it was a weird thing, and it was on MLK Day, and it was a Singapore cane match, and it literally. I remember making the joke to Ron, going, "I'm going to cane a white guy on MLK Day," and I don't know why the race thing was coming up or being part of stuff. Part of me once again hope and pray that we would get past racial use of race in anything and using stereotypical tropes to create a talent. But then when you're given something, you go out there and try to do the best you can with it. Was I uncomfortable with it? Yeah. But I got to hit Tommy Dreamer with a cane, so who cares?
True.
Yeah.
He enjoyed
How many
it.
people can say that? Well, a lot of people can say they hit Tommy with a cane. Never mind.
What I think is my favorite part of that is you having to sell into the camera and knowing how much Vince McMahon reveres Martin Luther King to do it on MLK Day. The irony wasn't lost on me. And I completely forgot about that podcast clip. And then when we were talking about doing this episode, I'm like, it's just so interesting to me, the dynamics. There were differences in the company from 1997, from even in 2002, and now your return in 2008. What was one of the bigger things that you noticed was different for the company on this latest return?
The entire roster locker room had changed over. I went from being in 2000, even 2003, one of the mainstays there who was always in the locker room, one of the familiar faces, to when I went back in 08, there were 1 or 2 or 3 guys that I even had ever touched before in the ring. And it was a whole different crop of young talent that had come up. And then little things like I'm in a match and I'm doing, check my arm. And one of the referees in the middle of the match go, "We're not allowed to do that anymore." And I was like, "Oh, really? Okay, that's okay. It's wrestling. Okay, I won't do it." Just different rules that you couldn't do anymore. Different things you couldn't do anymore. And then the whole change over the locker room. It was a different company, different world by the time I got back in 08.
Do you think it was for the better?
It was just a different company.
A lot of people would say things had gotten overproduced by 2008. Would you?
It was a lot
that?
overproduced. I remember doing an interview segment, and this was the first time I did an interview segment, and they wanted me to say everything I was going to say in the promo. And my first reaction was, I don't know what I'm going to say in the promo, because I was taught to create the promo in the moment. And when we did the walkthrough, it was do everything like you're going to do tonight on TV. And to me, I'd never even experienced it. I had been through some walkthroughs where it was, all right, we'll do this, yada, 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 move forward. No, it was A, B, C, D. It was paint by numbers. And that struck me as odd. And I chalked it up to, okay, it's a very young roster. Vince wants to make sure that they go out there and put their best foot forward. But then I came to the realization that it had been that way. It's that way. It was that way across the entire company. That it was everything was micromanaged to a point where there was less creativity, improv, and more Emmy worthy acting.
Was it something you were comfortable with?
No, no, no. I grew up in a time when not freelanced it, but you created interactively with the people, and you went back. You built off what they were giving you. So it was just a different world that I hadn't, you know, grown up in or been in a while, and I realized that was the way they were training them in the developmental system coming up. So that was just the way they were brought up.
When you get handed the script and you're told this is what you're going to have to do, even just the layout of a promo, but then what was different about the matches when you're sitting with your agents in 2008 compared to especially 1997?
Oh, in '97, it was once again, it was free verse. It was you go out there and give me bullet points and we'll get it in. Where in '08 it was you're gonna do A, B, C, D, and E. And that was completely foreign to me because now I wasn't wrestling like me, I was wrestling like what someone else's thought of what I should wrestle should be like. And that was just very uncomfortable. And it did not work at all. And I felt like I lacked creativity, and it just became paint once again, paint by numbers.
Carter and Dad Sports Cards has a great question, something I was going to get to. Who was the most underrated talent in 2008? When you signed with the company, was there someone in particular you were like, I want to get in the ring with him?
Dolph Ziggler was just coming in, and this is before he even took off, and you could just see he had that thing, like he had it, and that and I got to I didn't get a lot of TV time, but I was on the road
Yeah.
on every house show loop for 9 months, so I moved into a player coach role where I was, if there was a young kid, they would throw me out there with them and I would put him through the paces. And that became my role. And I quickly realized I was here to help tune these kids up. So a guy like Dolph Ziggler, I had been on the road with a few times. And you could just feel the potential in him as a talent and how smooth he was in the ring. Like anything, there were some bumps and bruises along the
Sure.
way, but for how long he had been in the business compared to his level of work, it was night and day.
You had a couple TVs before you actually ended up debuting. You did a couple dark matches, right?
Yes, yeah, I did. I was at every TV. I might not have been out there, and I did a bunch of dark matches. Yeah, I did a boatload of dark matches. Even if I wasn't out there, I was probably the first or second match out every night for a while before I debuted. I think they were waiting for me to debut in Chicago, so that's why it played out that way.
Your music hits, you get that reaction. Now, for
Yeah.
anyone who doesn't understand or has been to a WWE live event, the first known star that comes out always gets a big reaction.
Hmm.
Did you have any trepidation? Were they going to remember me? Because really, the audience has completely turned over in 5, 6 years. Any worry, any hesitation?
Yeah, particularly the night of the Garden Dark match. I hadn't been around in 5 years on, and particularly on an American level because I'd been overseas a lot in
Sure.
Japan and England. And make it even worse, when I walked out, they didn't play my music. They played some generic music. And it took the people a second for me to walk out, and then they saw my face and the garden lit up. And it took me aback a second. I'm like, holy hell. They remember me. And I was wrestling Connor from the Ascension that night. Um, and he couldn't have been better to me in the ring, by the way. He let me have everything and let me do what I needed to do. And then I don't know if Kevin Dunn even knew it was me or was I having the match, because I don't know, but after I got the 1, 2, 3, then my music played on the way out. So at some point they realized, oh hell, we played the wrong music. We better get it right. And on the 1, 2, 3, there was a record scratch and the crowd went ballistic.
So Oklahoma City, you finally get your dark match. It's you and Charlie Haas.
Yeah.
What do you remember that night? What do you remember the match? And how cool was it to work with Charlie, considering he was a Jersey guy too?
It's always cool to wrestle with Charlie, and I spent a lot of time with him and his brother Russ in HWA years before. So it was kind of cool to go full circle. The only thing I remember, and here's the crazy thing is, I had been in Japan and we've been getting knocked around because Japan is very stiff. But Charlie Haas put a trapeze hold on me, and he slammed his hand so hard down on my trapezes, it shook my toes. And that was the one thing I remember. I was like, damn, Charlie. But other than that, it was cool as hell to be out there with him. And just the Oklahoma City crowd couldn't have been nicer. They showed a ton of love, and it really encouraged me that, man, just people hadn't forgotten me. And that was like such a cool feeling, because the longer you're away, the more you think you're going to be forgotten. And to come out there and get the reaction I did that night, it was because in your mind you're like, oh, please be a baby face, please hope they remember you. And then when it all comes true, it's like, yeah.
For those of you who want to recognize us here in the lowdown, drop a super chat, hit like and subscribe here on podcaststevewrestling.com so we can keep doing this with you every week. One of the coolest moments in my research of finding your return was that you would team with Paul London.
Mm-hmm.
You would take on Ted DiBiase Jr. and Cody Rhodes Legacy in a dark match. There's been a lot that's been said about Paul London. What do you remember about Paul London?
I loved Paul London. He was one of the coolest dudes. And when I'll go a little deep in the weeds, one of the best minds for wrestling I've been around. Like, he's an eccentric dude, but when it comes to wrestling, he's got tunnel vision on how it should be done, and his tunnel vision is right. And his first and only mindset is, how do I get my opponent over? And if I get my opponent over, I'll get over. Love Paul London. He and I had so many dark matches. We used to joke too. We would shake hands and go, to get to the other side. And what we meant was to get to the other side of the intro of Raw, because we were on this side of the intro of Raw. We wanted to get to the other side of the intro of Raw instead of being the dark match or a Sunday Night Heat match. We wanted to be on the other side. So we'd shake hands and go, let's get to the other side. And that was our little running joke, because we must have had 10 or 12 dark matches between SmackDown or Raw tapings.
Taking on Ted DiBiase Jr. and Cody Rhodes.
Mm-hmm.
What's your first impression of both of them?
Immediately, I was really impressed with both, but I was more so impressed with Ted DiBiase Jr. Like, I thought he had that little something. Cody was still trying to find out who he was. He seemed like he was stepping out of the shadow of his dad and his brother, and he was really trying to find him. And that's a hard spot to be in, because now he's the third Rhodes. And, so you could see him trying to figure out who he was. And obviously he found it. It took some time. He had to go away, learn a new hold, get to another company, come back. And then he found himself. But you could see he was going to be there. He was going to be good. He just had to find his place and footing in the business. But I really thought DiBiase Jr. was going to be the dude. Like, I thought he had all the potential.
When you look back, and I'll make this comparison because I think it's apropos. Randy Orton comes to OVW in no time, steps right on a big stage. Was he immature? Yes. Was he ready for TV? Yes. Do you think Cody not having Jim Cornette run OVW stunts that growth?
I think so, because I feel that, like, Cornette gives you the rules to play with, but he gives you room to play within those rules, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And I think that structure would have helped Cody out a lot and would have allowed him to be free enough to find himself. And instead of struggling on TV in front of, 10 million people, he could have done it in Louisville in front of 500 people or 200 people on a local network and then found his footing. Now, it's hard to learn how to find your footing on live TV in front of millions.
Yeah.
That's a hard place to cut your teeth. And I give him credit. He was able to weather that storm, but it took several years for him to get his batting swing down. You know what I'm saying? He went from being a 200 hitter to a 400 hitter, but that took 6, 7, 8 years and a change of company.
Do you think getting out of the WWE system benefited Cody in a way that a lot of these guys, as you said, leave and learn a new hold before they come back?
Yes, because as someone who has left that company, it takes you out of that structure of do A, B, C, D. And now you're free to find out who you are because now you have the freedom to explore and experiment in the ring. And that gave him the flexibility and the confidence in him to come back stronger to, go to Ring of Honor, hang out on the Indies, go to New Japan, then go to AEW, help create that. And then by then he was in AEW, he was really finding out who he was. And then when he came back to the WWE, he was a polished product. And he was one who was ready for the limelight and for the spotlight. And he wouldn't have been that way if he hadn't had that ability to go away. If he stayed in that system for those 5 years or 4 years, however long he was gone, I think that might have stunted his growth. I think he might be the first one to tell you him going away helped him return.
I think one of the cool things, and I don't know if you had a chance to watch it, but the Cody Rhodes, Bruce Pritchard podcast they did recently, where Cody went kind of in detail as to how Bruce was part of the welcoming committee to get Cody back to the WWE. And I've heard the story that wasn't told on that camera, but that Bruce said, you have gotten to a point, but now it's time to take a step to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
That finishing capability of what WWE has to offer, and it's not a knock on AEW, but that maybe one tweak, one nuance, one capability of just years and decades of experience and going, here he is. All of a sudden, Cody, who was being pushed to the side by AEW fans, rises up on WrestleMania, and it seems like he's just a whole different level. That stage makes you, does it not?
It is, and I'll give the analogy. Would you rather be in the NFL and coached by Bill Belichick, who's got 6 world titles, or by a first-year head coach? No disrespect to the first-year head coach, but he doesn't know how to elevate that person to get them to 6 world titles. While the WWE, they have 70, 80 years of experience, not just the Vince era, but the Vince Senior era of getting people to that next level and making them those global phenoms. So when Cody came back and he's ready to jump on the stage, he's prepared for the opportunity. And now the opportunity is presented to him. And here's how they're going to take it to the next level. And that's the finishing product of what the WWE can provide is they have the history of making those crossover stars, those mainstream media stars, not just wrestling stars, but stars that can go star in a movie or be in a commercial and you don't bat an eye. And if you look at it, look at all the people they placed in Hollywood, on television at ESPN or stuff like that. The WWE knows how to make stars.
And I don't want this to be taken the wrong way. I don't think that's a knock on AEW. I just think it's
not at all.
It's a different mindset. Sometimes it's a different culture. Do I think the Young Bucks, for example, would be bigger stars in WWE than they are in AEW? I don't, because I don't think AEW. I don't think WWE would know how to present the Young Bucks the way they're presented in AEW. But for a guy like Cody, that element had to be from WWE, not from AEW, and I think it's shown. Although I will be honest, I think it's time for him to drop the title.
I will say he'll drop the title at Mania.
I was kind of hoping the way Hunter built up, you're going to see some surprises at WrestlePalooza. I would have put the title on Drew and had Cody chase again, but that's me.
And I think the only reason they didn't is because Cody just got it back like 2 weeks ago. So you cheapen his second run if if he's a transition guy. That's why I think it'll go to Mania, and that you can't cheapen his run. If it's a short run, it means nothing. So it's got to go 6, 8, 9 months. So it's a legit title run. But yes, I Cody to me is Dusty, and Cody and Dusty are always better chasing.
Yep.
That's why Dusty chased the NWA title for 12 years and held it 3 times for like 4 months.
Yep.
But his chase is what drew the money. And I think Cody is that same thing. He's better chasing down a talent, winning the title, and then as he's raising his hand, be screwed over for the title, and now he's in the chase mode again. Yep. That to me is the perfect formula for Cody.
Back to 2008, it's reported the time that you'd be working with Kane on the Raw house show loop. Was that ever conveyed to you?
No, but it's what happened.
Yeah.
It's what happened. So that was kind of, told to me after we started running on the loops. And it was, we know you're safe. We know you're going to help, you're going to take care of Glenn. You're going to get the best matches out of him. Go have fun. We don't have to worry about those matches. We don't have to overagent those matches. Go have fun. And that's what it was.
You'd also wrestle Santino Marella on house shows before you would work him on your TV debut. Was this your first time meeting him?
That loop, that run, yes. I had never met Santino before. He was OVW after I think I was out of the company.
Yes.
So yeah, I had never crossed paths with him. And I've said this to him before. He's a bit of an odd duck, but I love him.
Was this the beginning of the friendship?
Yes, because we are definitely friends to this day. And when I kind of here's the thing with Santino: if you get him, then you get him, and if you don't, he can rub you the wrong way. And just because he's a little bit of an odd duck, but I got him right away because I've been around guys like Santino before. And it was easy to fit right in with, and we had, we went around the country a few times and had great matches. So, and that led up to my debut in Chicago. And I said on my podcast here before, at 1:00, I was beating for the Intercontinental title in Chicago, my debut. At 2:00, he was beating me. At 3:00, it was a double DQ. By 6:00, I was winning by DQ, and I think that's what we finally went with. I won by DQ.
It's crazy to me that this is how things would go on TV day. You're being built up for this debut. There's no vignettes. There's no nothing. It's just you. And I don't want to say debut and Cole, but I don't know another way to say it. But all of a sudden, you just appear.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the plan? Was there a plan that was worked out ahead of time that kept changing?
There were a couple plans, and everything was just it was pliable. Everything kept moving. The plans kept changing. There was plans for different types of runs and different types of pushes, and for whatever reason, none of that panned out, and it just became a very dry and stale 9 months there doing dark matches, and maybe I think I did 4 TV matches. And yeah, it just none. I don't think either of us were a fit for each other anymore at that point.
Do you think it was a disconnect between what you were promised from Johnny and then creative not being clued in, or was it where was the disconnect?
There was a lot of promises made, and I don't think none of that was translated to creative. And I wasn't a big enough fish in the pond to make a wave where I could go, hey, we talked about this, and this. Why are we not doing any of it? It was kind of like, let's go in there, let's get over, and let's make people notice by, once again, I'm going by my own mantra. I'll make them notice by my work in the ring. And at this point, it was way too late. I just don't think we were a fit for each other.
On a sad note, you'd wrestle Lance Cade a few nights later after your TV return, and he's not with us, unfortunately, anymore.
Yeah.
But You
Yes.
worked with him the weekend of his last time in the company. Do you know anything? I mean, he seemed like he was going to be a big star, but it just seemed like it was demons.
And I have known of Lance Cade since the time I went down to TWA and I wrestled Daniel Bryan and Spanky. And he was on the show. And I looked at him and I said, that's a puppy with big paws.
Yeah,
And when he grows into his big paws, he looked like he was a younger version of JBL. And when he grew into his paws, he was going to be that 6'6" country star. And he was on the right path, and then somewhere along the way, and I don't speak ill of those who aren't here, but somewhere along the way, the demons took over, and this life isn't for everybody, and it can either harden you because iron sharpens iron, or it can break you into 1,000 pieces. And the history is littered with the stories of guys this business has broken. Unfortunately, that's a sad fact. And he was just one of those guys that he succumbed to the life and let it take him over. And man, he had all the potential in the world. He was so good in the ring to be so young. Like when you talk to him, you realize he was young, and when you got in the ring with him, he was an old soul.
yeah,
Like he just worked his tail off, and you had to take a double back and go, this kid is 22, whatever he was. You're like,
yeah.
what? Are you kidding me? And you could just see what he was going to become because his level of work, his look, having the pedigree of being trained by Sean, you just knew it wasn't a matter of if, but when this kid was going to take off.
And he's working with you at the same time. He's getting groomed to be in a program with Sean and working as Chris Jericho's heater. So
Mm-hmm.
at that point, he had to messed up big for them to just cut him in the middle of that run. Were you
Yeah, and I
around for
part
that?
of my part of my matches were to help tune him up.
Sure.
And I knew he had issues. I didn't know the extent of what his issues were. And look, for every 1,000 of the boys, there's 950 people who have issues, and 920 of them can wrestle with those issues.
Right.
It's that small fraction that let their issues take over. And he was one that was there. I didn't know how deep he was into it or how bad he was. And it came as a shock when they just cut bait with him.
Yeah.
And that was out of left field for a lot of us. Like, whoa, are you serious? Because once again, you saw the potential. You saw what he was going to be. Yeah,
He always
that's a sad one.
he always reminded me of, you brought up Bradshaw, but he also reminded me of Barry Windham. Size,
Yes,
he could move. I thought
yeah,
him and Trevor Murdoch together were a very good tag team.
yes,
Trevor
they were
Murdoch's
a great. They were a
another
great
guy.
tag team. Trevor Murdoch is underrated, by the way, because
100%.
he was this generation's Dick Murdoch.
Yep.
Like he was literally Dick Murdoch reincarnated.
Yeah.
And
Less KKK.
less KKK, thankfully.
Yeah.
But those two together made their dynamic as a tag team was like, whoa,
Yeah.
they're off the charts. And once again, I thought Murdoch was going to be a player. And sometimes those can't miss stars. Sometimes they miss.
And I don't think that's on Trevor either. I think some of the creative in 08, 09, not the best. And it
No,
was
and
tough.
a lot of times when guys stars flame out, it's part them, but it's a lot of stuff they can't control for their star to flame out.
What's the locker room like when they hear Cade in the middle of a big angle just gets cut?
Just shock and what happened? What happened? What do you know? What do you know? Everyone trying to piece together information to kind of create a full story, and you could never really get to what the full story was. And then those who did know the full story was mum's the word.
Yeah.
It's not our place.
Getting back to Santino, you would team up with Kelly to take on
Yeah.
Santino and Beth Phoenix in some
Hmm.
mixed tag matches.
Yes.
I've heard Kelly's very nice. Beth is a legitimate Hall of Famer and just returned to wrestling TV this past weekend and All Out. But there's
Hmm.
a spot in one of these matches that I have to ask you about.
Okay.
Santino gets in the ring. He cannot get you up for a fireman's carry, sells his back, tags out. Beth comes in, picks you up, no problem.
Yeah.
That's you, right? That's a D'Lo spot, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure of that.
That's putting over Beth.
Yeah.
That's putting over Beth. She was the powerhouse, and Santino being the comedy guy, it's make the powerful girl do the thing that the guy can't do.
There's not a lot of guys that would do that spot. And I know you well enough at this point to know this is what gets over. And it doesn't
Yes.
matter that you're a guy and she's a girl, but it's for the good of the match, the good of Beth, and it works for you too. Do
Hmm.
you like we just saw a mixed tag match this past weekend at WrestlePalooza? The guys and the girls didn't really get to interact much. Do you think that I know some people don't like intergender wrestling, but where do you stand on that?
I'm not the biggest intergender wrestling guy in the world. Like, I don't ever want to see a dude punch a girl in the face. But there's nothing wrong with a girl fireman's carrying a guy, or a girl can clothesline me, and we can do other things. I'm just not programmed, and this is not about equality or who's better, or it's just programmed into me. You don't hit a woman in that fashion. So it's even in a work sport, it's hard for me to wrap my brain around. Now, can I produce it? Have I done it? Can I do it as well as I can? Yes. And I will continue to do it if that's what the situation calls for. Just know the dude inside of me is going, man, I wish we could do something else. But I'm going to go out there and do it the best of my ability. And once again, it's not about equality and who should be in the ring with who, or
Sure.
thinking women are less than. It's just the way I was raised. If my grandmother saw me even in a worked way hitting a woman, she would rise up out of her grave and beat the dog snot out of me. So that's just where I was raised.
You bumped for China. You bumped for
Yes.
Ivory. You
Yep.
bumped. Oh my God, I'm blanking on somebody, but there's somebody else I know you bumped for besides Beth Phoenix. But I remember Tessa Blanchard's run on top in TNA,
Hmm.
and it's her as the champion going toe to toe with men. You
Yep.
were, I'm pretty sure you were part of the company at that point. Tessa did a hell of a job. Lita, thank you. The chat, you bumped for Lita as well.
I
Um,
bumped for Lita. And
yeah,
as a matter of fact, when you putting over Tessa, I was predominantly the agent of most of her matches.
I figured as much. When you see a structure and you see a match put together that way, there are tendencies as an agent, and I've picked up on some of that now from just listening and talking to you and your views on the business. Tessa did a hell of a job, but it takes two to tango, and these guys
Hmm.
have to be able to do it. To me, it's not bad when there's good heat, but I don't disagree with you about a man punching a woman in the face. It doesn't sit right. Bully, though, I feel like Bully Ray can get away with it.
Bully can get away with it because that's just his character, and that's just the way people have. Bully don't give a crap. He don't
No,
care. Bully's gonna punch you in the face, man, woman, 6 foot tall or 3 foot two. He's gonna punch you in the face.
I feel like that precedent was set by him power bombing every woman in the company through a table. It feels like it does. It doesn't feel off when Bully does it. And I don't know what that
If you
means,
can
but
if you can parabomb Mae Young off a stage through a table, it doesn't matter what you do. You're okay.
I will say this to you, and I hope you don't get angry at this, but that moment was the first time I ever picked up on an Iggy. For those of you who don't know what an Iggy is, it is when we signal to each other in the ring that we're okay without verbally going, we're okay. And it was the
Yes.
first time I ever saw it, and I saw it, and I immediately knew what it was. And I'm 13 or 14. And I watched it happen, and I'm like, good, she's okay. And that's one of those instances I knew I want to be in the business. I want to know all that stuff. And like that's one of the things that drove me to be in the business.
Hmm.
That was a complete tangent that had nothing to do with our conversation. But
It's
when I
okay, and I'll add on to it. There's a ton of verbal and nonverbal communication that goes on in the ring, and yes, you picked up on the Iggy, and that's our way of particularly it. I'm not going to go into how if you know what it is. I'm not going to tell you what it is. But
Yep.
if you know, you know. But after something, an incredible big bump, there's always because that's the brotherhood of what we are and what we do is we all want to leave the ring in the same condition that we walk into it. And our job is to make sure that we're kept safe. And so after a big spot, it happens every time. And you may or may not see it, but it happens every time. It's brother, you good? You good? Let's go.
August 18th in Chicago is a big night for you. It's finally your Intercontinental title match on TV between
Mm-hmm.
you and Santino. And it's 2 minutes long, and it ends in a DQ when Beth comes in and slaps you as you're standing up on the turnbuckle for the frog splash.
Yeah.
Is that disappointment?
It is, and it's my adopted hometown. It's the place I'm most associated with. It was my debut after 5 years not being in the company. Um, the Allstate Arena was rocking from the second they heard the first note of my music, and to me, inside, first of all, I'm going to do what the office asked me to do because that's my
Sure.
job, and I'm going to deliver the best thing that I can. But when I hear the crowd become deflated with the finish, I was equally deflated inside my heart because I felt like I let Chicago down, I let the WWE universe down at that moment, and I knew that wasn't the best way to utilize me or to get where we need to go. But once again, I'm again the new kid on the block back in the company, and I can't really voice my opinion.
Sure.
I'm still learning the nuances of this version of the company.
One of the nuances is, again, you're in the player coach role and you're working with a very young Jake Hager, who would later be known as Jack Swagger.
Yes, sir.
When you're working with these guys, is the office coming to you going, tell me what you thought, tell me what you think?
It's a
Is that
little
the conversation?
it's a little of both. It's like okay, so before the match, we'd like to see this, and this out of our talent. Okay, can you get this out of? Yep, I will. Then you go out there and have the match, and it's immediate download. What'd you think? Were they there for this? Were they listening? Asking the normal questions of their progression. Do you think they're better than they were last week? But it was a very much a instant feedback on what I thought of this talent at this moment. And I got to work with a bunch of the younger dudes, and give my it was almost I was in that role of Dino, is he ready? Is he not ready? Because I was given that trust of feel him out and tell me what you think. Can we put the rocket on him now, or should we wait another few months? That was kind of the spot where I grew into.
Were you surprised that there wasn't a transition to an agent job afterwards, or even a role at what was then FCW, soon to be NXT, coming out of this?
Yes, because I had thought because of the way I was being transitioned, I was being groomed to be the agent because I was told to start paying attention to the matches, go up to the young kids and help them build structure and help them put the stuff together. And in many ways, I was being groomed to be an agent, just wasn't in that company.
Right.
But I thought there was going to be that transition to the next step to be an agent. We didn't have the PC at the time; it was Florida Championship Wrestling, and or I was just going to start shouting one of the agents on the main roster. That was my thought, and it didn't work out that way. But it gave me the foundation of what I was going to become the next, I don't know, 15 years.
You had worked in OVW and HWA back
Mm-hmm.
in your original run. You head down to Florida for a loop. FCW, not yet the NXT. It's
Mm-hmm.
not a Jim Cornette operation. It's not a Les Thatcher operation. What did you think of FCW?
I thought FCW was incredible. From the time I walked in, I was like, this is a mini WWE. The way the building was set up, the way they did things. I remember coming in that night and Dusty was there, and Dusty talking to me, and I was like, Dusty, what do you want? He goes, baby, do what you need to do, baby. And he was like, you're gonna work with this one, and I want you to go get this out of him, baby. And it was the way it was set up. It was Steve Kern was running it at the top, and it was just set up like a baby WWE, and it was awesome. Uh, I had never seen anything at that level. The only thing close to it was the way Smoky Mountain was run. because that was basically a carbon
Sure.
copy of WWE. But this was just take WWE and shrink it, drop it in Tampa, go.
You would work Dolph Ziggler. You'd work Manu of the Legacy, who I guess is a member of the Bloodline. I feel like at this point,
He's a member of the Bloodline. He's on the Alpha side. Yeah, Alpha. He's
yeah, The Office. Yeah,
yeah,
that. Yeah, it's
yeah.
whatever one Matt Vegas. Yeah,
It's you've seen the family tree.
yeah,
It's more like a family forest.
yeah. Was Ziggler the one who stood out to you the most out of all the young talent you had worked with?
Oh yeah, at that time he was the most ready. He was the most ready to be used on TV. He had the look, he had the charisma, um, he had the package. It was just he needed to have the right situation to be brought up in, but he was the one who was ready to go at that moment.
You'd get your rematch with Santino finally on TV. It's a non-title match, which doesn't really make any sense, and then you would lose.
Hmm.
Was this kind of the writing on the wall for you?
Yeah, at that I knew at that point. They hadn't said anything to me, but I was like, okay, the comeback is over, and now let's pay attention to the backstage stuff. Let's pay attention there.
You'd go one more European tour, and by the end of that tour, you're working with Kane as a heel.
Hmm.
Then you would work Charlie Haas when Charlie's doing his impersonation gimmick as Haas Hogan.
Hmm.
What was that like?
Well, I it was let's just get the job done. I felt bad for Charlie because that wasn't him, and he was put in a bad spot. And let's just make the best out of this what we're given. And if we go out there and undersell it and don't do it right, we'll get in trouble for that. So let's do it the best we can. And if it doesn't work, then it's their fault, not ours.
Let's do it the best we can. Drop any super chats you have as we're going to wrap up this episode in the next couple of minutes because now we're at the end and your time comes. You're on the road up until like middle of December and then you're off right around the
Yep.
holidays. What's the message from Johnny Ace? Is it from Johnny Ace? Did you
It's
think that you were getting cut?
uh so that morning I saw on the internet that there were some calls being made. And I remember at the time I'm with my wife and my two daughters, my youngest two daughters, well now my oldest two daughters, and we were on our way to Disney in Orlando because that's where I was living. And as I'm driving, the phone rings and I see caller ID and I see 203 and I went, "All right, babe, here's the phone call." And I answer it and hello, Johnny. And right there I
Yeah.
knew what that call was going to be. Um, it was a messed up day because Ron Simmons and I got both cut on the same day. And I remember calling Ron right after, and he just said, "My boy, you'll be okay. Don't worry about it. It's just the way the business is." And we didn't go to Disney that day, which was depressing to me and to the girls.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah,
Wasn't just you and Ron, but Sean Morley got cut that same day as
yeah.
well.
It was 8 or 10 of us that got cut.
Yeah. What's it like in your mind, the preparation, knowing at some point the 203 number is going to come?
You mentally put yourself in that spot, but still, when that number comes in, when that phone rings, you're never really 100% prepared for the words. You can hear it in your head 100 times, but when you actually hear it, um, for real, it's like, oh. And then my immediate thought was, damn it, well, I didn't burn bridges in Japan. And then my next thought was, well, I'm located here in Orlando, and TNA is filming in Orlando, so maybe we can go explore that option as well.
Do you feel like you were let down by the company in this run? Do you feel like you never got the opportunity to do more?
I completely feel like I never got the opportunity because creative never lined up with me, or there was never didn't seem like there was a true plan for me being there other than just being a body that was there to help younger talent. And if that was my role, then I accept it. If they'd have told me that from minute one, I would have accepted that and done the best I could have with that opportunity. Um, but it was conveyed there was going to be a bigger opportunity, a bigger spot, and a bigger role, and that just never took place.
What are the differences between you being let go in 2008, 9 versus your original run in 2001, 2002?
Uh, 2001, 2002, my contract expired, so I knew that was coming up. So I wasn't really let go; just my contract wasn't renewed. So in that one, I was anticipating being let go because I wanted to go see what was out in the world.
Right.
2008, I was more settled in, and I had given up Japan, and I'd given up my international touring, and I wanted that. I was going to get that last good run, and then transition over to the office. And that it came as a shock that you know you sign a 3-year contract and you're there 9 months.
How does a WWE contract work when you're let go like that? Are you paid out for that
You get
remaining time?
you get 90 days. You get paid out for you get 90-day release clause, and then after that, you're free to work anywhere else, and you're paid for those 90 days. You have to sit at home, and then after that, the contract is you're basically no matter what contract you sign, it's only worth 90 days because at any point they can cut you in 90, you can give you 90 days, and that's it.
Were there any? 'Cause I know there's been some controversy and talk over how the non-compete works. Was there any specific companies you were not allowed to work for if you were allowed to work for anybody?
No, I wasn't allowed to work for anybody, and they never put in there you can't work for A, B, or C. They just said you can't work for 90 days or until the last check comes in. And okay, cool. It is what it is.
Did you have the ability to negotiate and say, me, me, stick your 90 days and I'm going to go work for somebody? Or was it just easier to get that money and then relax for 90
It
days?
was easier to get that money, rededicate yourself to training, and then, you know, make phone calls and have conversations all the time. You're still getting that check for 90 days. And it helps you put money away because on the other end, obviously this salary's here and
Sure.
out on the indies that salary's gonna be here. So you don't want to just give that up right away.
Did you get any feedback from anybody else in the office, Bruce, anybody like that after you got let go?
It was just the words, the timing wasn't right was the common phrase. And I just chalked it up as we weren't meant to be together anymore. It was kind of like dating a girl in high school, then you go meet her when you're 27 and it's just not the same spark. Just wasn't the same spark.
Did you get any FaceTime with Vince at all during this run?
I talk to Vince all the time, but nothing about, it was Vince who put my mind in the direction of I was going to be an agent, groomed an agent. That's who he was the one who told me to start paying attention to young kids. And that's where I was going. That's what my mindset was. And that just didn't happen. So I hold no ill will. It is what it is.
Sure.
And they gave me a good foundation to transition to TNA and really learn how to become an agent. And that's what my life has been ever since.
Was this your last conversation with Vince McMahon?
Yes. I have not spoken to Vince since then. Yep.
Have you spoken with Johnny Ace since then?
No, no. Johnny Ace and I don't see eye to eye, so I'm not going to have many conversations with him.
Working with the differences in the company then and previously, did you think you burned a bridge on the way out?
No, because I did nothing controversial or detrimental to being there. And I didn't raise a stink when I was let go. I didn't yell and scream. We weren't meant to be together anymore. So I don't think I burnt the bridge. And case in point, I still have interactions with the company till this day. So I don't think that bridge has ever been burnt. It's just we weren't meant to be together.
Was there one thing you wanted to do during this run that you did not get to do?
Yeah, I would have liked to have been in a title run and had another Mania match. And I say title run, whether it's IC or something like that. I would have loved to have had another run and given an opportunity to go out there and be featured to see where I stacked up against the younger talent that was coming up at that time. But it just didn't work out. So it is what it is.
It is what it is, and it's a very good way to end this episode this week on the Lowdown with D'Lo Brown. when I look back at that run, there was so much missed opportunity. And I know I'm sure you feel the same way. But D'Lo versus Nick Nemeth never being on TV is
Yeah.
so depressing looking back at it.
We had a bunch of really good house show matches. A bunch of really good ones.
I'm sad that they've scaled back on live event touring because things like that, people not being able to see those types of matches nowadays, you wouldn't see that now, unfortunately. And I think it's a
Yeah.
missing element.
I think the house shows has become a lost art form, and I think the business is worse off because there aren't those house shows for the fans who can't afford to get the TV, or TV is not in their town, to be the boys getting those reps when the camera's not on. You get to be a little more free out there. So yeah, I truly miss house shows, and hopefully one day they come back.
Your Chicago Bears are going to be not far from you this Sunday. Are you venturing to Las Vegas?
Bruh, come on, man.
That's a
Do
yes.
birds fly?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially when they're
yeah.
3-0.
Fly, Eagle, fly.
Yeah.
Yes, I will be in Allegiant Stadium on Sunday wearing my Caleb Williams jersey, wearing my Chicago Bear sneakers, and screaming like a 15-year-old enjoying the Super Bowl shuffle.
The Chicago Bears are favored,
Ugh.
giving 1.5. You willing to make that prediction right now?
I think Bears win. That's a given. I think Bears win. I don't think the Raiders. I don't think. And here I'll say this and watch me curse them. Um, as I say this, Ashton Genty hasn't proven he can run behind that offensive line, um, and he doesn't look like the same dude who ran in college who was running guys over.
It's fair.
And it's a little different when you're running against grown ass men and not the University of Wyoming. Um, I don't believe in Geno Smith as a quarterback. I think he's right on the Russell Wilson train. I think he's at the end of his run.
He's benched, by the way. Did you see that today?
Yeah, I saw Jackson Dart,
Yeah.
and Jackson Dart has been sitting on my bench, and he'll be starting this week for me. I think the Raiders' defense is suspect. Other than Max Crosby, I don't think there's a lot out there,
No.
and I'm not scared of their offense. I just want Caleb to show up. And I will tell you this: from the last time the Bears played in Allegiant in Las Vegas, it was Soldier Field West, and I assume it'll be Soldier Field West again, because I will guarantee you, when you're watching on TV, it'll be more of a home crowd for the Bears than it will be for the Raiders.
The Giants replacing Russell Wilson this week going against the Chargers feels like a disaster waiting to happen.
It does. I mean, that Charger defense is stacked, and you're going to throw a young kid out there, and this is not. I mean, this is the best of the best of the SEC, not the has-beens. And you're going. I mean, it just seems like I would have waited another week or so, got to the bye week, and give the kid 2 weeks to prepare for a team, not just throw him into the wolves on the road, hostile environment. It seems like a recipe for disaster.
Are the Lions real?
What I saw last night against Baltimore, yeah, they are. Yeah. And then I thought Baltimore was going to be the team, but Derrick Henry fumbling 3 straight weeks is something he has never done.
Ever.
And they put a spy on Lamar, and it seemed like that offense was paralyzed. It was frozen. And I didn't think that was possible. And I think they just given the key to the league now, because the NFL is a copycat league.
Yep.
And I think because the spy worked, I think they're going to put a kid out there every week who's just going to be looking Lamar Jackson in the face.
Watching that game, I was reminded of the Ravens-Eagles game the year before where they really shut him down, and it was almost the same defensive set. Speaking of my Philadelphia Eagles, our toughest schedule in NFL history to begin a season continues this week as we
Yeah.
travel to Tampa Bay, where we take on another undefeated team
Yeah. And another hot quarterback.
and another hot quarterback and another hot defense. Buccaneers squeak past the Jets because it's still the Jets.
It's the Jets.
Eagles are -3.5, coming off one of the greatest comeback victories I've ever seen in NFL history, not just included because I'm an Eagles fan. Is this Baker's, hey, I'm here, I'm a top 5 quarterback game, or is this Jalen just going, you're not there yet, kid?
I'm going to give you the hidden variable, which allows me to think that Tampa Bay wins this game. 20 degrees. 20 degrees difference between Philadelphia and Tampa Bay. That heat is real, and it's going to pull the legs out of those defenders.
Mike Evans is hurt.
The weather is real. Okay. Just like the cold affects teams, the heat affects teams. Why do you think Miami puts teams on the sideline where they're in the direct sunlight?
Ain't helping.
Jacksonville, yeah, well, it don't. Well, yeah, never mind that. Miami's a bad.
How mad is the NFL? Their Monday night game this week, the first one is the Jets at Dolphins.
Yeah, they were. I bet they're going. Can we start flexing teams next year as soon as we want? Because I know it's the last 4 weeks of the year they can flex. Right now, they want anything else other than the Jets versus Miami. Anything.
Are you going to be home in time to see Micah Parsons decimate the Dallas Cowboys without CeeDee Lamb?
I will be home because my home from Allegiant Stadium, last time I was there, I got from my seat in the stadium to sitting on my couch in about 45 minutes.
You should have plenty of time.
I will have plenty of time to, and I think I even stopped to get a beer back then. I will have plenty of time to get home and see. I think Micah. And that never am I going to put over the Packers, but I think Micah and the Packers are just going to walk Dallas dry. Like if the Bears laid them out, what do you think Green Bay is going to do?
It's going to be interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
We got an interesting week ahead in football. We got an interesting week ahead in wrestling. While we were recording, NXT and TNA squared off again on the top. D'Lo has it recorded. I'm sure he'll post his thoughts on what he saw on social media.
I will be watching that as soon as I turn this computer off. I will hit play and enjoy my the rest of my evening.
Make sure you're following D'Lo on social media at DLoBrown75 on Twitter or X, D'Lo Brown LFC, because LFC stands for what, D'Lo?
Liverpool Football Club.
That's right. LFC on Instagram. D'Lo's got an upcoming appearance on October 3rd for 3PWA. Make sure you check his social media out tomorrow. That'll be up. Get a cameo from D'Lo at cameo.com/DLoBrown75. And D'Lo's brand new shirt is out on ProWrestlingTees.com/DLoBrown. Remember, you get that shirt, you take a selfie, you tweet it at D'Lo. He will follow you and on Instagram as well. He'll follow you on Instagram as well. So make sure you're taking care of that. Hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications here on podcaststevewrestling.com. We will see you next week. And you better recognize the greatest Eurocontinental champion that's ever existed in wrestling history. The Lowdown with D'Lo Brown. We'll see you again next week right here on podcaststevewrestling.com.